You never really know what's in my mind at any given time. You never know if I'm thinking rationally or created some other reality that seems to fit, that seems to be normal. But you never really know what normal is to me. You never really know.
Jason is my son, and today is his
You could have dinner with us. My brother makes good head cheese. Candyman, I get cheese. Candyman, Candyman. We all go a little mad sometimes. Hello and welcome to Two Guys, One Necronomicon.
Yeah, boy!
A weekly horror review podcast where we talk about all things horror. We talk about your cult classics to your modern day trash.
Oh, pop that!
And today we will be starting our summer camp month where we will be discussing the movie Madman.
And we are your hosts, Brian Hotboy LaGrasta and Shane, the creator of Vice, Smith.
I am not actually the creator of Vice, but fun story. My Twitter handle was actually so similar to his. I used to get people tagging me in posts like, hey, it was nice seeing you at that cafe in LA. I've never been to LA.
Yeah, but you've been to San Diego.
This is true. Very nice city.
And
Absolutely loved it.
And he went to the zoo. And I can confirm that his favorite zoo animal is the muskrat.
No. It is actually the sloth.
The sloth. But they're very mossy. They get very dirty.
Yes, and they only climb down their tree to poop once a week.
Did you ever see like a sloth in the middle of the road?
I've seen the videos, yeah. They're just kind of like...
Did you ever hit one? Because I know you can get very violent on the road. Shane goes on a warpath sometimes when he's driving.
This isn't true. Also, where would I be driving where I would see a sloth?
San Diego. The San Diego Zoo.
You don't drive in the zoo.
You could drive through the zoo.
I haven't done that.
You're a madman. Speaking of Madman, we're reviewing Madman today. The first movie in our summer bash month. And what are we calling this spectacular event? Because this is the hottest thing to happen since, I don't know, Y2K?
Well, yeah, that's correct. It's definitely just called Summer Camp Month.
No, we're calling it the Summer Bash. The Summer Bash Bash.
I got backtrack for a second. What was with the Yeah Boys?
Oh, that's my new thing. They're starting to call me Brian Yeah Boy. You know how they used to call me Hot Boy?
Yeah.
Now I'm Brian Yeah Boy.
Okay, so now you're just giving yourself nicknames. Next, you're going to be calling yourself the Big Ticket.
No, that would be Sauce McGavin. You can find him on YouTube.
Great Pokemon YouTuber.
Under the name Sauce McGavin. Great guy, great pulse, especially if you like Pokemon.
Yes.
And if you haven't noticed, we have new music here.
Yes.
On Two Guys, One Necronomicon.
We have a new outro, which has been produced by a band called Green Knuckle Material.
These guys are super hot, and they're from New Jersey, like us. Please follow them on Twitter at GKMBand, and like them on Facebook, and also listen to them on Spotify. Green Knuckle Material or GKM.
Yes, and if you haven't already, you can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter, you can find us at Two Guys, One Necronomicon. Our Twitter handle is at Two Guys, One Necro. This is where we post most of our content and keep you guys up to date with what we're doing.
Now that we got all that bullshit that nobody cares about out of the way, let's get to the thick of this movie.
Yeah, because this is what I want to talk about. I guess, classic 80s horror slasher movie?
It just takes me back to my youth when I was a Boy Scout, sitting around a campfire, hearing scary stories, making s'mores, getting lost on trails, nighttime walks through the woods. It's just, it really takes me back. Of course, that wasn't in the 80s, but it was in the early 2000s when your Scoutmasters were really out to get you spooked.
I thought you were going to say the Scoutmasters were just out to get the boys.
No, I'm not a sick pervert, Shane. That's disgusting.
Jokes aside, Madman was a interesting movie because it came out the year after Friday the 13th, correct?
Yeah, so when we think of summer camp fun movies, we think camp counselors, slashers, woods, we think Friday the 13th.
Exactly.
That's like the pinnacle summer campy horror film.
Well, that's why I was bringing it up, because I feel like this movie was trying to capitalize on what Friday the 13th had done.
Just 1 year removed.
Yeah, and it didn't do it well.
It didn't. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know the budget of this movie. I'm assuming it wasn't a large budget versus Friday the 13th.
Which wasn't a large budget either.
They're both kind of small productions.
No, this budget was definitely smaller. You could just tell.
And you could look at a movie like this, and while I don't think this movie is bad, and I like Friday the 13th, but I would say that movie's not particularly great either, but there's a stark difference. One of these films is a lot more passionate than the other.
I mean, this movie has one kind of steamy hot tub scene.
I would say just steamy is the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, it's a steam bath. The problem with this movie is, like, even though Jason isn't the killer in the first Friday the 13th, his mom is still a better villain than
I actually think the idea...
Madman Mars.
It really sets up the whole story of Friday the 13th, though, with the mother being the killer.
Yeah, it does.
I think it just sets the stage for this, like, mysterious boy who drowned perfectly well. This problem, and what we're going to really dive deep into, is the lack of development of this character. You really just do not care about him.
Well, he's a terrible person. The only backstory you get is that he beat his wife, punished his kids, and then he drank too much one night and killed them all and went to a bar.
Yeah, he's basically like your Uncle Gary. Released in 1981, this film was directed by Joe Giannone. I hope I pronounced that right. It is a horror thriller, definitely a slasher flick. And the summary is: a killer of legend stalks and hunts a group of summer camp counselors and kids. What I find so weird about this movie is there's like triple the amount of counselors to kids.
Oh my god, my brother... Alright, so me and my brother watched this movie, and he said the same thing. I was like, isn't this a summer camp? I'm like, where are the kids? He's like, well, there's 3 counselors for every kid.
It's very true. I've never seen a camp, and I think it's like the last day of camp, or one of the last days, like they're wrapping up. They're going on a break because it's about to be a holiday or something.
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, yeah, so...
Yeah, right, they do say Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, maybe they're taking a break after summer, and they're going to get back at Thanksgiving?
Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know. In any case, they're going to go on a break after...
Whatever's coming up.
This is the last day.
There's a scene later on in the movie, literally the end, where she evacuates the kids... And there's like 7.
Yeah, there's like no kids. And one of them doesn't even look like a kid. The kid that drives the bus, he's got to be over 18. He's driving.
You're absolutely right. Like, I didn't even think of that.
I'm like baffled. There's like barely any kids and a ton of counselors. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, hot, steamy, passionate. And if you know anything about Two Guys, One Necronomicon, we treasure passion.
This is true.
Unfortunately, it does not deliver in this one.
It just doesn't. Unless you got anything else to say, I guess let's jump right into this film.
Okay, so this movie opens up with some hot-hitting 80s music right out of the gate. And they kind of give you text, which is going to set the stage of the movie. It all started during a campfire at North Sea Cottages, a special retreat for gifted children. And you kind of hear, the first scene is a guy, he's kind of singing like a scary story about like a man who's just like killing people. You kind of see like flashes of people dying. Do you see the characters of the movie dying?
Okay, so literally this scene is a spoiler for the movie.
Yeah, because you see
every time they show
right?
a quick flash of it. After the singing, the old man.
They introduce his character as Max, and he's like, I guess he runs the whole summer camp.
He would be the CEO, we'll call him.
Let's just say he runs the summer camp.
I kind of want to call him the CEO.
I don't think summer camp's like a business. I think is it a business? I think it's more of like an organization that's voluntary. It thrives off donation. I don't think it...
Do the counselors get paid at summer camp? I've never been to summer camp.
No, I think it's voluntary.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you get paid. I could be wrong. I have no idea.
You can tell we have never actually attended a summer camp.
No.
So, old man Max, he sits down and he's like, let me tell you a scary story about the old house behind the trees.
He's like, it's right over there. Take a look at it.
And literally the camera's like, oh, there it is.
The story's about, it's a legend of a farmer who had a wife and 2 kids. The perfect nuclear family, right?
One would think, yeah.
Except this man was evil.
You don't say.
And why is he evil?
Tell me.
The alcohol.
It's always the alcohol.
Because this guy loved to fight. He loved to brawl. He loved to drink at the tavern. He once got his nose bitten off, and he never even felt that.
I know.
This kind of left his face disfigured, which is a prominent part of this movie. But he also beat his wife and children. Classic alcoholic dad.
Punished his children severely was the words used in this film. He also then tells the story of how this man, which you'll realize his name is Madman Mars. Mars?
Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madman Mars.
How he lost his mind one night.
He just went mad in the middle of the night. And you know what this guy done did? He creeped into his wife's room and chops her up, with an axe.
Which it does flash to show you a quick whack with the axe.
And in his bloodlust, he went and crept into his son's room and then chopped up his son into a bunch of pieces.
Whack! With an axe.
And then don't forget, he had one daughter left. So you know what he did to her?
I'm going to say he let her go.
I'm going to say, a whack.
With an axe?
A whack whack with the axe.
This movie was so mediocre. We have to make it interesting with the dialogue here.
This is cool. Because what he does is, he kills his entire family. Not cool, but he does.
Super cool.
He walks into the bar he always goes to, drops the bloody axe on the bar, and orders a beer.
Yeah. That's like one of those moments where it's like those fucking gifs where it's like someone just drops something, the glasses come on, just says like thug life across his chest. But that's what he does. They're going to bring him back to his house, but then he is jumped and beaten by 10 men.
Yeah. And they slash him in the face with an axe.
And then they hang him in a tree.
Overnight, his dead body's hanging there. Very next day, they go back. Guess what? Nothing on the news, dude.
No. And they never find his family.
Missing. So this kind of sets the stage of the movie. And as the story goes, and old Max explains to the summer camp counselors and kids, so the mad farmer waits for nights like this one with a full moon to either chop off your head or hang you from a tree.
There we go. And then Max also reveals if you say his name loud enough, it summons him. So Richie, being the only character I remembered his name for the first 45 minutes, starts going, Madman Mars, Madman Mars.
And this idiot, this selfish buffoon, not even because of the story, because obviously it's a story on a campfire, so logically you think it's untrue, but for any reason, he chucks a rock through the guy's house.
Breaks the window.
Who does that?
To be fair, it is technically an abandoned house. So it's like, no one's living there, so he's just like...
They establish it as abandoned in the movie?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I think it's alluded that no one has moved in since the murders happened.
I also want to credit Richie on the impeccable aim, because this guy throws like a 90-mile-an-hour heater right through the top of the window.
I felt like I was watching Randy Johnson back in his Diamondback days.
Seriously. So then when he does this, the old man then actually makes it like into the ether, kind of apologizes to Madman Mars on behalf of Richie. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Madman. He didn't mean that. Please accept our humble apologies.
We will learn that Madman Mars, he's not the forgiving type.
He's not. Max, I don't know if he really believes this or he's going along with the story, but he kind of mentions, they're not safe here tonight.
Yeah, I think it's just him going along to scare the 2 children that are at this campfire with a bunch of just camp counselors. I actually have a question. Richie is a counselor too, right?
No, he's a kid. I'm pretty sure he's a kid. He's just old. He looks like he's at least 19, 20 years old.
Oh my god.
He's definitely a kid. Because if you were... Yeah, we'll explain later. Obviously, we literally explain every little piece of every movie we ever review. But the kids in the camp quarters are looking for Richie. And remember, they make his bed.
That's right.
Because they don't want him to get in trouble for staying out.
That's right. Alright, that makes sense then. You then flash to 2 characters. TP is the one person's name, the guy, and Betsy is the girl. And TP just leans over. He's like, same place tonight, Betsy?
And Betsy's not feeling it tonight.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not in the mood.
She's like, just not tonight.
And he's like, come on, it's the last night. Let me keep pressuring you to do something you don't want to do.
And she's like, well, we have the rest of our lives.
Which is a good point.
TP, we have the rest of our lives. I don't know if it's toilet paper. I don't know if it's Tom Parker. I don't know if it's Trey Parker. I have no idea what the guy's name is.
I actually just assumed Indian TP.
Fair enough. There's tents, I think, in this movie.
There is, but that's why I thought maybe it's just like, I don't know, a nickname, like
maybe
a camp nickname?
He's an excellent tent maker.
He's also excellent at just pushing himself onto this girl when she clearly is not interested for the night. She does eventually give in, though, which, because he gives a banger of an apology.
He does, and it was a respectable play.
It was.
So what happens next is Max is like, okay, time to go back. You boys head back, you girls head back, and their respective leaders, Betsy and TP, will take them both back. Now, TP, he has these boys wired because they're running in place. It's like they're doing army drills.
Well, yeah, because he wants everyone to stick together, so he has them do this inline march, but Richie literally sees Madman Mars.
He sees them up in the trees.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's just watching them from the trees.
And, I'm like, it's not even like, oh, I thought something was there. He's staring at a ginormous man in a tree.
A hulking, massive man. He looks almost like a mammoth.
Yeah, and he just doesn't say anything, waits for everyone to leave, and then looks for it.
Yeah. And then he starts jerking off, which was weird. I didn't get that part. For some reason, he goes off the beaten path, and...
No, in all seriousness, I'm like, wait, did I miss something?
And then he kind of like walks off away from everybody else into a clearing, and then he sees Mars' house because it's literally 25 feet from the campsite.
Yeah, it's such a weird place when you really think. It's like, oh, this place where a triple murder took place. Let's put a campground outside of it.
It's not like you have to like move over some bushes to see the large house. No, you could just literally see it way beyond the trees that are there. He approaches the house, and we clearly know that someone's in there. Somebody with very disfigured hands, because they light a candle.
They constantly put that candle out as well.
Yeah, he puts it on, and then he puts it out, and I really don't understand the point of putting it on and putting it... I guess when he leaves the house, he puts it out.
Yeah, it'll play into the end of the film, but as of like now and throughout it, you're like, why am I watching this man constantly turn candles on and off?
Yeah,
like,
no joke, because Richie goes in the house, you see the disfigured hand, put the candle on, and then like literally a minute later, just puts the candle out.
Yeah, there's a whole thing here with Richie where his whole part in this movie is just walking in and out of the house.
I almost think he lives there. He's probably paying rent at this point.
Yeah, like...
He's paying rent.
Yeah, like he goes in, he comes out. Then he like sees something again, goes back in the house, goes back out, goes back. It is...
And this is probably like I think it's like a 3-story house, or at least a 2-stories. There's something upstairs and a downstairs. I think there might even be another
3-story if you count the basement. There's a big basement.
And that's what I'm saying, because the basement is the hot spot of this house.
Yeah.
Everything's going down in the basement, but we will take you there, not just yet.
No. Instead, we are going to go back to the camp where Betsy and another girl... Stacy, yes. Okay, so I actually want to ask you this. Did you have trouble learning some of these characters' names? Like, I felt like there's one girl in particular, I didn't know her name until 45 minutes into the movie.
Ellie?
Yes.
Yeah,
I know it now, but like...
They do a bad job. The characters are just so poorly developed in this movie. Like, I get it, it's a slasher, they're supposed to be.
But you should at least know their names.
Correct. Like, you don't. Like,
the first guy who dies, which is coming up shortly, I don't know if he was even in the movie other than the scene he dies.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
The guy who gets his throat ripped out?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like, because that's coming up soon, so it's not like jumping that far ahead, but like, did he have a name? Was he at the campfire?
No.
He just existed for that scene. But yeah, so...
Oh, no. He did have a name, and the only reason I remember it is because someone mentions him, and it's a really stupid name, so it kind of like stuck with me, and I'll explain in a second.
Okay. Well, anyway, going back to this, so Betsy and Stacy are discussing men, and they're just like...
Boy talk!
Yeah. Stacy's like, she has a bunch of men she wants to pick from or something like that, but she has her eyes on certain ones, right?
Yeah. They start getting on the topic of TP, and Betsy mentions like how possessive TP is.
Yeah.
And they're going back to the city. In the city, they have a lot of options in the city, so she doesn't really know what she wants to commit to yet. And I'm just going to say it now. The music in this movie is just ridiculously quirky, because it's like this weird soft popping sound in the back, and I'm like... What is this bubblegum flavored track doing in this movie? Like, this is supposed to be a heat steamy slasher in the middle of the summer with a madman on the loose who supposedly killed his whole family, and you're playing this, like, soft, offbeat track, and it's making my dick recede into my body.
I mean, what do you expect them to play the Ballad of Madman Mars the entire film?
No, but that shit's banging.
Yeah, just two girls having some guy talk, really nothing important there. But then we pan to the outside, which is very important, because you see, I think it's Max and David?
No, it's TP.
Max and TP, yes. And they're trying to pull an axe out of a stump.
Yeah, and this thing is in there pretty deep, and it's not coming out.
No, they need King Arthur to pull out Excalibur, because that's exactly what this scene is.
It's literally the only thing that's going to get this axe out of this stump. How did he get in this stump?
A strong man.
That is lore that we have not found yet.
No. We probably never will.
No. But yeah, they try, and TP is like really determined to get this out. So they're both kind of lugging at it, and they can't get it out. And then Dippy's the character you're referring to. Dippy kind of goes outside. He sees them trying to pull the axe out. He's like drinking alcohol. And they're like, Dippy, some help? And he just doesn't say anything and walks back in the house.
So that's the only time you learn his name?
Yeah, that's it. That's the only time. They just call him Dippy.
I must have took a bite into my cookie when they said that because literally it's the next scene, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's the only reason why I know his name is because I love it.
Because literally the next scene, he opens a door and then Morris just rips his throat out. Actually, it's a pretty good effect, like a giant hole in his neck.
TP gets very frustrated. He can't get the axe out of the stump, and he kind of goes on to explain how he needs to win and he hates losing. And then one of my favorite parts of the movie, which I was hoping would come into play at some point and just doesn't.
No.
Max gives TP some advice. He says, hey kid, losing, winning, what's the difference? Play the game with a fair heart and you'll always be able to look yourself in the mirror. Play too hard to win and you might not like what you become.
Now that's a great quote if it comes back into play.
And they just... They stare at each other, and TP just walks away. End scene.
Yeah. Also, never refer to that scene again. TP is in this movie for a short amount of time. There's no chance of him to... He technically just loses right away, almost.
Dippy, he wakes up. His handle, I think, is it Jack? I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
But he's out, and he needs to fuel up for the big night. And I think he's going into, a closet. He opens the closet door, and out comes Madman Mars for the first time. That you actually see kind of what he looks like. You don't really get a complete and total glimpse of his face. But as you mentioned, Dippy's throat gets ripped out.
So that's it for Dippy. We learned his name for 1 second, saw him for half a second, and then he's dead. And that's it. No one cares about him.
And then scene goes back to Richie, who's still in Madman Mars's house. Mm-hmm. And again, a candle is turned on as he's walking downstairs. And he kind of sees Mars is, at this point, dragging Dippy's body off the screen, and I remember this scene vividly because there's a wild sound effect, and then I'm like, what is this sound? I actually thought he was eating his body, but I realized he wasn't. That's just how he talks.
Yeah.
He just grunts. Yeah, exactly. He just has these really outlandish grunts. And it kind of reminded me of the main character in 13 Cameras.
Yeah. Who just, hey, can you fix our sink? Hey, our toilet's on the fritz.
If you've seen this guy in real life, you're like, this guy definitely has 13 or 14 cameras set up to spy on the entire complex.
Yeah. Also, just so everyone knows, don't watch 13 or 14 cameras. They're both awful movies.
They're good watches. Shane's not giving them enough credit.
If you like watching threes, which, to be fair, some people do, so maybe it's your cup of tea.
Yeah, it's good if you don't really care. So then the candle goes out again. Richie looks out the window, and this time he just sees Mars dash out. Because that's what this character does. He randomly just has this burst of energy where he just jets out of the house, and it's not the first time he does it.
No, Mars, he has a very interesting thing where he doesn't swing his axe or grab people until they move. A lot of times the character is stationary for what seems like 3 minutes, and then the second they dip, he swings his axe like a buffoon.
He's got an axe, and also he grabs rope, because if you remember the beginning of that campfire story, how does he kill? Kills by hanging, kills by axe.
Yeah.
They never mention him ripping out throats, but apparently he does that as well.
So, from that, after Richie sees him running, we go to the cafeteria where the whole staff is sitting around, and Max comes out and says, congratulations on a good summer. He does say good summer here, so it was the summer.
Yeah, it is.
So I don't know what they were... I guess the kids are going back to school.
That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. It's the 80s.
Maybe they come back for a Thanksgiving quick summer camp. Maybe that's what he mentioned.
Maybe.
Who knows? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Max congratulates them. He says now he's going to go into town.
He's going to play some cards.
Yeah, he's going to play some cards. Kids, I know you got some beer at the bottom of the fridge. Save one for me.
He's the kind of guy you want to work for. Max is a great dude. But Betsy has something to say to Max.
Yes.
He's like, you shouldn't be going telling some scary stories with all these little kids hanging around. And by little kids, 2 of them.
And Max is like, you know what? You're right. I'll just keep it to the older kids, which would just be Richie and the guy who drives the bus.
Yeah, because they're the only older kids there.
Weird summer camp. This is also the scene where TP publicly apologizes for his actions earlier. Because he was coming off a little rapey, and he's like, I realized that. And he does apologize, and Betsy completely forgives him.
Yeah, completely forgives him. Before Max leaves, he goes, you guys need anything? Because I'm going to be coming back from the store, and I can get you whatever you want. And Stacy's like, yes, but you won't find it there in, this sexual manner.
Yeah.
Dave's like, oh, down, girl. You'll be back in the big city soon enough, and you can have anything you want there.
Yeah, Dave's a very interesting character. There is a scene where he gives a speech, which
man.
I cannot wait to discuss.
Me as well. And Max is like, I'm getting too old for this kind of talk. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And he leaves. The scene now transitions to TP and Betsy taking off their clothes.
Alright, this scene is so fucking awkward. You just see, like, a hairy belly button. He's, like, unbuttoning his pants slowly. And then she's, like, awkwardly, like, taking her pants. It's very weird.
Yeah, there's like, oh, man.
Like, I like our Passion Bump segment, but this episode's not having one.
I don't think so either.
I get it, they're in love, and it should just be, like, a nice scene. It comes off awkward.
And the funniest thing is, like, as he's undressing, he's got, like, a TP initialed on his belt buckle.
Yeah, he does.
And I'm like, dude, who does that?
I don't know. Who does he think he is? Dimsdale Dimmadome?
Oh my goodness. So Betsy plops herself into the hot tub, and then you get a little 80s side boob shot.
You do. You also get a nice ass shot of TP.
Yeah, if you like hairy ass.
We don't discriminate here. You know, gotta mention both nudities. This scene is also kind of great. It's not passionate. Like, they like...
Encircle the tub?
Yeah, well, because they're like cats.
Yeah.
Circling each other, staring each other down.
It's like two animals trying to mate. They like circle and stare at each other for like a solid at least 30 seconds. It feels like an eternity and a half.
Yeah, but then they do finally kiss, which it's a nice kiss and everything, but as soon as they kiss, the scene ends.
It's a decent kiss. It's like a very posh kiss.
Yeah, but at least it's like a realistic kiss. I don't have much experience with circling people in a hot tub to truly understand what was going on in that scene.
Yeah, I don't either. But are you saying that this is not a passion bump? You don't think this is a passionate scene and is unworthy of our passion segment? Because I'm always looking for passion, and this is one of the only chances that we have, dude.
Now, I'm not Mike G, whose finger wiggles over every thing. I don't think this is a passion bump.
Fair enough. And Mike G is, if you don't know already, because we mention him in every episode, he's probably the next Madman Mars, because he is a psychopath.
Alright, so this is where Brian goes a little outlandish and embellishes the truth. Mike G is actually just our friend who invented the passion bump.
Yeah, he's not a raging alcoholic that beats people. He just does a lot of coke.
Wow, okay. This is what I'm talking about. We gotta rein these things back. You can't just be throwing these things out there.
So Madman Mars notices all the clothes on the ground near the hot tub area. And as he approaches, he's got there's like a foggy window, and he's looking through, and he's noticing these two kind of embrace each other.
Now wait, do we give a passion bump for Madman Mars watching?
Yes, because I think he's getting off Shane as this is happening.
You know what? You might have just talked me into it.
Shane, what you got there?
Oh, just my wiggling finger.
Ooh, why is it wiggling, Shane?
Well, because something's getting a little hot over here.
What do you mean?
A little... Ow! Passion bump! Passion bump! Passion bump! My G. So, after that very... I guess passionate scene. We've just lost our minds here.
We have, because I'll be honest with you, Madman Mars does not care about passion. He cares about blood.
Yes. Maybe I'm missing something. But I think after that, we go straight to Stacy not being able to climb a hill.
Yeah. Okay, so
so
two things I want to mention. This movie constantly flashes to Richie, pretty much running in circles in the forest because he's a 20-year-old that has no idea that the campsite is 10 feet from where their cabins are.
Yes.
Two, she's playing a recorder for about 2 notes, climbs up a hill, and it's seemingly like a 5-foot hill, and she just can't climb it.
Yeah, it's like if an ant couldn't get up one of their small ant hills. Like, it's not difficult, but she's struggling so bad. And this is what I was bringing up with Madman Mars. Like, legit, she can't get up the hill for 30 seconds, and the second she gets up it, you just see Madman Mars' hand come.
You see it, he kind of like swipes a rock and misses her foot.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And then she gets top of this, like, I don't know, 5-foot molehill. Explain this to me. She turns around and does one of these. Sticks her tongue out and mocks the hill, the air.
She wants the hill to know the hill couldn't get the best of her.
I have no idea. She doesn't know a killer's after her. She doesn't know.
Well, no, that's what she's mocking the hill. She's like, you thought I couldn't get up, you hill? Well, I proved you wrong.
You're absolutely right. I can't think of any other explanation, but she definitely mocks the hill and the dirt that she seemingly could not climb through. Yes, this is what we're talking about.
How can I get up this 2-inch hill? And she beat it, and she just... It's stupid. I'm sorry.
So now back at the cabin, and they're not really cabins, they're more like small houses, but I'm calling them cabins.
Yeah, we'll go cabins, because this is the scene we were looking forward to talking about. You see 4 heads. You see David, Billy, Stacy. So she went from at the hill to automatically in the cabin, whatever. And then the other girl, Ellie. And this is where David gives the speech.
David gets up. He just pulls out a switchblade. Like, I don't know where he's getting the switchblade from. I guess it's the
woods. The 80s. You should have a switchblade.
And then he kind of, like, scares everybody. Because he's kind of like, you never really know what's in my mind at any given time. I could be crazy. You guys have no idea.
Yeah, he's, like, leading them to think he's about to murder all of them.
Yeah, and then Ellie is looking at Dave, and she's like, you good, bro?
Literally.
What he's trying to say is, you really never know what's going on in someone's head. For all they know, David may want to chop all their heads off. And then he proceeds to scare them, and then tickle them a little bit. A little tickle fight.
Tickle fight!
Classic 80s tickle.
That's another scene where it's like, it's funny, but not necessary.
I know.
It's like their attempt at building character, but it's not well built, so it's like...
I have no idea what they're trying to do. To me, it's just nonsense. You're right. They're trying to build character.
Yeah, because what it is trying to be a character building moment, but it's like, you learn that David is weird, and that's it.
He's just weird.
At this point, I still didn't know that girl's name was Ellie. It's just they didn't give you any information.
Yeah, it's like in passing they mention it. It's just so hard. And none of them are distinguishable by any means.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Like, her and Stacy are literally interchangeable characters.
Like, how I would describe them is like Betsy is the blonde.
Well, that's why Betsy and TP were very easy. Like, I knew their names.
Dave is the creep. The only one you really know is like TP and Richie.
Yeah, well, Richie's on a whole other level.
Because he just starts screaming and stuff.
And Max, because Max is actually an interesting character. It's a shame he's gone.
TP at this point, he's going to the boys' quarters because it's nighttime and, you know, he's in charge of them. So he's looking after them. He wants to make sure everyone's there. He notices Richie's not there and he asks the kids, you know, where's Richie off to? And they want to defend their friend and he notices they're not there. So he leaves. He's focused on finding Richie and he meets up with Betsy.
TP basically says he has to go look for Richie. They're talking a little bit. I don't think they're really saying anything that important. But this is another thing where I'm baffled by character decision. Betsy clearly sees a giant hulking man walk by one of the cabins. And she is about to tell TP this. And he's like, fuck it, never mind. And I'm just like, you're a counselor at a summer camp. And you know none of the counselors are giant. Literally, the guy looks like Sasquatch.
I know it's a campfire story, but the house is there. It's abandoned. It's here from the campfire story. I mean, like, you can put 2 and 2 together here. It's not right.
Yeah, because even if you're not thinking, oh, Madman Mars is out to kill us, there's a giant hulking man going around your camp at night.
There's nothing stealthy about Mars. If you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, this guy's got like a -4 to his stealth.
It's awful. So, yeah, she doesn't say anything and TP leaves. He just walks around and yells, Richie! Richie!
Yeah, he goes back to the campsite because that's where the last spotted Richie. He's looking for him. At this point, the scene does transition to Ellie and Bill. And they kind of have like a little romantic moment. He's like, no doubts, he wants to be with her. They're a little sweet on each other.
They are sweet on each other.
Ellie's like, well, it's a great full moon tonight. Hey, Billy boy, you want to go for a swim? He's like,
and then that's when I'm like, ooh, okay. Maybe a little.
I have a better idea.
Yeah.
And they make out a little bit. Now, looking for Richie back at the campsite, TP gets no response after he mentions and calls out his name. He moves his flashlight over the trees, spots a figure, kind of passes over, and then goes back to it, and the figure's gone.
Yes. So this is the first time where I'm like, okay, it was a quick glance. Maybe you thought you saw something in the dark. So I was like, okay, you know.
But he doesn't think it's some weird, deranged, psychopathic murderer who kills his entire family and then slapped his axe down at the bar and ordered a beer. He thinks it's Richie.
He does think that. That's right.
And then he's like, something smells a bit off.
Yeah. And that's when Mars uses his second method of killing. He throws a noose around TP's throat.
He's getting roped up.
And then he starts pulling TP through the forest, up the tree. And then TP, honestly, very smartly, grabs the tree because he pulled him too high. And he pulls himself up a little bit.
To prevent himself from choking out. Yeah.
Exactly. So Mars And this is why I think they showed the belt buckle. Walks up to TP, grabs the TP belt buckle, yanks him down, breaks his neck.
Exactly. And this is like one, like, it's almost like an effortless grab down.
Yeah.
And he just falls down immediately, neck snapped. You just hear a crunch. Death scenes in this movie, not terrible.
No, they're not.
Not terrible.
No. For 80s, this is what like I expected to see.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
And then he lets out this grunt, and then he walks away. And you get a better view of him at this point. If I can describe what Madman Mars looks like, just picture like a 70-year-old, 700-pound Paul Bunyan figure who decided to eat his tongue because he was too hungry one night.
And just think of like Sasquatch hair just coming down. Like, he's interesting looking, I'll give it that. He also has these very sharp fingernails.
I don't even know if he's got 5 fingers on his hand. Like his hands are so oddly disfigured.
Yeah.
They're like brown. They're like leather hands.
Yes, he does have leather hands.
Imagine getting finger blasted by that guy.
Whoa.
Betsy's waiting for TP, who, she's like, he is 45 minutes late, and I need to have a talk with him. But no, she talks to the rest of the counselors, and David's like, well, kids get lost. They get lost about, twice a year. He's talking about Richie. And then Betsy's like, David, listen to me, you son of a bitch. I saw a figure outside, and we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this right now. And David's like, I no need to make up a dramatic story for an effect. He's like, I get it. I'll go look for a TP. And she's like, no, I saw the figure, and it was gone. He's like, I get it. I'm moving. I'm out of here.
Yeah, things like, Betsy should have said before TP had left. Another thing that happens, King Arthur comes and pulls Excalibur out of the tree stump.
It's cool.
And by that, I mean Madman Mars comes and is just like fucking one-handed pulls the axe out.
I have a feeling he put it in there. Like how you never know how it gets in there.
Unless Dippy was really good at chopping wood.
I like your theory. Good old Dippy.
Now I actually know that character's name.
Never got to live up to his potential.
So Dave, he's walking around. He stops for 5 minutes in one spot, and the second he moves, an axe swings at him.
Yeah, and he dodges a few axes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, before he starts dodging multiple axes, though, he sees TP hanging in the tree.
Kind of backs into him, notices him. He's like, oh my gosh, it's TP. And then he pulls out the switchblade.
And that's when Mars starts swinging this axe, and you realize if David was a character in D&D, he would have a acrobatics of 15. Yeah. Because this guy is moving past axes.
He is dodging everything. Almost like a circus performer in a way.
Yeah. Until he finally trips. He does the classic horror thing where instead of just quickly getting up and moving, he slowly backs up until it chops his head off.
I love the kill here because Madman Mars doesn't go for the axe. It's like, you dodged a couple of my axes, you son of a bitch. He takes a jump and leaping overhand strike like some kind of barb and rocks him. We shift back to the cabin. Stacy's like, Betsy, I need to check things out. And Betsy's like, I think we should stay here, Stace. And Stacy's like, that's the difference between us both. You're content to stay behind, and I'm not. And this doesn't mean anything to the fucking story.
Yeah. Clearly people are missing. Wanting to stay behind is not a bad thing in this situation. To be fair, they keep going to look one by one and disappearing one by one.
This is the part of this movie that's frustrating. It's so cyclical. It's the same thing that happens over and over. One character looks for another character. Go to the campsite, they die. Another character
goes to look for that character.
Goes to the campsite, dies. And Betsy, all the while, is like, yeah, I'll just let all my friends die and I'll just chill back.
And also, all the while, Richie's like, oh, let me go in the house for the 45 fucking time. But seriously.
He's like, who's turning the candle on and off?
I need to know. Oh my god, this fucking movie. Betsy waits in the room, and then Stacy goes to a car, right? She turns on the pickup truck.
Before this, she goes to check on Billy and Ellie.
That's right.
And they're getting it on in the tent.
That's right. She says, I want to go look for David. You guys help me soon, but not too soon.
Not too soon.
So she gives him a little bit of time. It reminds me of that scene in Starship Troopers where Rico and I forgot her name, but it's Dina Meyer plays the character, and Michael Ironside sticks his head in, and he's like, Rico, I need you to report. And then he realizes he's with a girl, and he's like, soon. Exactly reminded me of that scene. But, yeah, so then that's when she goes to the car.
Mars, you get a lot of POV shots. This is kind of reminds me of Black Christmas, where Black Christmas is all POV shots. Yeah. You get half and half. You see the killer, but you also see a lot of POV.
I can't say it pays homage, because it's too soon to say it pays homage. It kind of just copies POV shots from that. Obviously, the atmosphere of Friday the 13th. There's a scene at the end of the movie, almost identical to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with Betsy at the end, so, which we'll talk about when we get there, but...
And Stacy's like, oh, this darn flashlight, it doesn't work! And she finally gets it to work, and like Shane mentioned, she goes to the truck, and guess what? The truck doesn't start.
Right?
Shocker. She pops the hood, fixes the car, gets back in, and just as she gets to start it, he puts his hand on the passenger door.
Yeah, but she drives off. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about. The guy, he's the killer of being 5 seconds too late. Also, if you don't like the cliche of the car not starting, we got a few more. There is.
So now Billy and Ellie, they're done. They've had their fun, and now Stacy's missing, and now they need to look for Stacy. And guess who's also staying behind? Betsy. Shocker. As Stacy's like looking through the woods, now she's looking for Dave, she's looking for TP, and she's looking for Richie. You know she's going to the campsite. She spots Dave's lantern on the ground, and just over yonder, there's 2 legs kind of hanging over a log.
Yep. And that's when she finds Headless Dave.
Yeah, he never stood a chance. He tried, but failed miserably. So she starts running away.
And I love this, because the body is very slowly dragged, like, over the log.
And this guy's he's a body dragger.
He is.
He's been driving the entire... Richie's been seeing him dragging bodies the whole movie, but you don't see him... You just see the body move. There's no... You don't see Mars, like,
he didn't
moving
have the budget to move the body like that. So, Stacy gets back to the truck, and it doesn't start again.
Classic, right?
Stacy, being the mechanical engineer, pops open the hood to try to fix it again.
You get a nice glimpse of Mars in the rearview window. He's hanging around.
Yeah. So she sticks her head in, fix the axle, maybe change a few spark plugs, and he jumps on the hood of the car, decapitating her.
Yeah, he just stomps down on the hood, crushing her head.
It's not even a crush of the head. It's a clean decapitate.
No, it is. It is, yeah.
Which is actually, I don't think, scientifically possible.
It's not, but it's a cool death scene.
You can't even say crush, because you're going to see the head, and it's perfectly intact.
True.
Once again, I think I said this before, cut by a lightsaber. It is a clean cut.
Yeah, it is. You would think, this guy has to be, because he's wide, he's got to be, at least 400 pounds.
Yeah.
He hits his acrobatics check, jumps on top of the hood of the car. You'd think that this head would be pretty much crushed to nothingness.
Yeah.
But it's perfectly intact.
Yeah.
And actually, still intact in the hood of the car.
It's actually fascinating.
So, Billy and Ellie spot Stacy's truck, and Billy's like, I got a great idea. Let's split up and meet back at the campsite. We'll do a complete circle around. We'll hit everything. We'll see everything.
It's absolutely genius. Like Brian said earlier, this movie is rinse and repeat, the movie.
So Billy keeps walking. He's like, there's a cut rope here. It's tied to a tree. Ginormous gash in the tree as well, probably from an axe. This is interesting. Probably some crazy camp. Probably Richie.
Ellie just finds Mars standing over dead Stacy.
Yeah, he's draped over her dead body by her pickup.
So she runs and instantly finds Bill.
Yeah, and she's screaming, so obviously now the killer knows where she is.
Yeah. She finds Billy. She kind of says, what she saw.
And Billy's like, let's confirm that deduction by going back.
Yeah. Everyone's got to confirm things. So they do go back, and the body's gone now. There's blood everywhere in the front.
I love it. There's blood all over the car, especially the front and the hood.
Yeah.
But it's all over the place.
But these characters don't have peripheral vision, so they only go to the side, the back, and the side, and never see the pile of blood at the front.
They're like, I don't see it. Everything looks normal. They get in the car. He starts it up, and it's not starting. He's hearing I can only describe it as a splurting noise.
So, like we said, this is the third time the car won't start. So Billy gets out, pops the hood, and there's a perfectly intact Stacy head.
Uncrushed.
And now he panics, gets in the car, and insta-starts it. So...
The head?
But he didn't remove the head?
No, he does.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he wraps it up and takes it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, alright. So the head was clogging the engine, I guess. This scene, so the car starts, but it doesn't look like he's driving. But then he gets ripped out of the window.
One hand rip from Madman Marsh. You know this guy is freakishly strong. Like Mark Henry strong.
Should be in, World's Strongest Man competitions.
Yeah, Madman Mars would be killing it out there.
Yeah. Seriously, though, he's one hand rip a guy out of a moving car. Impressive.
This, of course, now being the downfall of Ellie, because this car has no driver. The car then veers into a tree.
And she falls out of the passenger door.
Yeah, so I guess she opens the door.
As it hits the tree?
As it hits the tree, causing her to tumble out. And it's not like a hard fall. Because the car was going, I don't know, like 5 miles an hour.
Yeah. So she turns around. She sees Billy just being held over Madman Max's head.
Such a cool shot, because it's like a distant shot.
Yeah.
And he's holding him up over his head with both hands, and his bones are getting crunched.
Yes. And now this isn't something they copied from. This reminded me of like Victor Crowley. Like something he would do in the Hatchet series.
This killer reminds me of Victor Crowley.
Yeah. I could actually see Hatchet taking some inspiration from like a movie like this.
I could be wrong, but I think the killer in several of the Jason films is Victor Crowley.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Right?
Kane Hodder.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
He's such a good, like,
No, he's good.
actor like that, like, just playing those roles. Fun fact, in one of the Jasons, Kane Hodder also just plays a security guard who gets killed by Jason.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
there's
cool.
a little fun trivia outside of this movie. After she sees Billy getting all of his bones crunched, we pan back to Richie, who is roaming in the woods, goes back in the house, goes into the basement, and he sees something shocking, and the scene ends.
Yeah, and his mouth opens so wide. The fear and the terror in his eyes, his mouth opens just large enough for Madman Marks to walk through.
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive. He kind of just like steps on his tongue and sneaks in.
That doesn't happen, but his mouth does open tremendously wide.
The other girl makes it back to the camp now, because we go back to that. The other girl being Ellie.
He makes it back to the camp.
She looks for Betsy.
Exactly, and if I could describe the way this girl runs back, I would say she runs like a one-legged warthog.
Okay, man. Accurate, maybe? We'll go with that. It does lead to another really cool scene. She hides in a fridge.
Shane, she has to.
But what's great is like she takes the shelves and throws them on the floor and then just goes in the fridge. And I guess Madman Mars is too stupid to realize, oh, the fridge shelves are on the floor. He just kind of like, I guess, blunders around.
He blunders around and she doesn't hear noise for a while.
No, so she leaves the fridge.
And then, you remember how you just mentioned how Madman Marks is stupid?
Yeah.
He's just like a blind killer that goes into rage. I don't know where he develops some sort of intelligence, because you see him hiding in a corner.
I know.
Like a stealth maneuver. Like he hit his stealth roll finally.
Ridiculous. And then he stealths out in front of her and just hits her in the chest with an axe.
I love it, because this scene has a lot of like, he just hoists the axe and you just see it come down.
Yeah.
Like you don't even see him wind it up, you just see the axe held in the air.
This is all shots of like actions without seeing, like almost every time the axe swings, you don't see him swinging the axe. You like kind of just see the axe.
A lot of time you don't even see it strike. It's just like an off-screen hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This one you do see strike her chest though.
Correct. And it's bleeding because it kind of hits her right in that windpipe.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing is gushing.
Then we cut back to Betsy because she's pretty much the only named character left alive.
She walks up to the dining hall, looks through the window, and she sees Ellie's body kind of covered in blood. So this is the first time she's seeing like one of her friends that are dead because she's been hiding in a room the entire movie.
Yeah, but like then she calls Max and she's like, "There's blood everywhere.
You need to come back.
Yeah.
Blood everywhere." And she really doesn't really know exactly what's going on until their friends are missing and she sees her friend's body on the floor. And I love this because Max, you see him, and he's got loaded bills in his hand. Like, how did this guy win this much money?
Yo, he's a good card player.
He must be. So now she goes on offense, Betsy. She takes a rifle off of the wall.
Shotgun.
You think it's a shotgun?
I believe so, because
It's like a one-shooter or a two-shooter?
I think it was a 2-shot shotgun. I could be wrong, but I thought it was a shotgun.
So, of course, she takes ammo from the unlocked drawer in the office because we're in the 1980s, and she loads it in the gun.
And then she shoots Ellie in the face?
Yeah, because she walks back to the dining hall.
Yeah.
Ellie just frighteningly jumps up to the window, and she just blows her away. She thinks it's like she's scared. She thinks it's the killer or something.
Credit 1 kill to Betsy, and -1 to Madman Mars.
That's true.
Because Betsy finished her off.
One of the little girls opens the door, and Betsy's like, "You! Wake everybody up." She's like, "Round up the troops. We're getting out of here. Everybody hit the bus, pronto!"
And my mind is blown, because at this point I forgot children were in this camp.
Because there's like 3 of them.
Yes. We get a short bus that fits all the kids, because there legit is 7. Betsy then, like, tries to evacuate the kids on the bus, but Mars jumps in front of the bus, so she just stops driving.
She stops.
And you would think she would just ram him.
I love Mars, because he doesn't like punch through the window. He tries to open the door to get into the bus. He's like, "I'm trying to ride the bus."
Oh my god. And then she beats his hand for what feels like hours.
Yeah, like some kind of, is it a blunt object? Is it the rifle? I don't know what it is, but
She's just
smacking his
swinging.
hand.
And eventually, like, he stops.
Yeah, his hand kind of recedes back out. As after 14 shots, he's like, you're hurting my already crippled hand. Let me get out of here.
So then she tells this 45-year-old child to drive the bus out.
Yeah, she's like, I gotta go look for the others. You drive the kids out to safety. I think she tells him to keep going and don't stop for anything. Drive directly to the police station.
Don't pass go, collect 200, all that good stuff.
Exactly, because she has one thing on her mind. She needs to go into the Mars house, because that's where the action is. And as she's stealthily creeping in the house, you immediately see Mars, like, right behind her, just getting into a stealthy position.
So they have a little scuffle here, because Mars knocks the shotgun out of Betsy's hand.
With his axe.
Yes.
And they're right now, both of their items drop to the floor.
So they're scuffling, but he gets the upper hand, and he drags her by the hair. Now, this is what I was talking about with more so a reference to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because he hoists her up and throws her directly onto the meat hook, just like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where he puts the girl on the meat hook.
And it's amazing, because the second she gets thrown onto the meat hooks, you would think, oh my god, that's it, she's dead. Nope. She pulls a knife out and stabs him.
Yep. And then, this is what this all was leading to. This is why we saw the candle 17 times. The one time he forgot to put out the flame, he knocks it over and sets the house on fire.
As the camera pans over, you see the cellar, and why we said the action's in the cellar. Richie's seen a lot of bodies get dragged in this movie, and now you know why, because not only are all the counselors down there, everybody this guy's killed is down here in this cellar.
There's like 14, 15 people in this cellar. Yeah, I just assumed there, obviously, Mars and Betsy die, considering Betsy's on the hook and Mars is stabbed and the house is on fire.
I think that's a safe assumption. You really never know. At this point, you see Max driving back. He spots Richie on the side of the road. He finally found his way out of the forest, the seemingly never-ending 20-foot radius of woods.
Fascinating that the guy who spent the most time in the Madman house is the only survivor.
The guy who sparked the entire event of Madman and Mark's coming to kill them, if the legend holds true, which we have to assume is.
Yeah.
Then Richie's like, finally makes the acknowledgement. He's like, Mars is real. Mars is real. And I don't know if the audience is supposed to care. He makes this realization, and the movie ends.
But what does the movie end with?
It ends with what we are calling the Ballad of Madman Mars.
Yes. I wouldn't be surprised if that was even the correct name. It literally is just a song about Madman Mars.
It is.
And that's it.
That is Madman, a very cheesy, but very accurate to the time, slasher, campy, fun film.
Yeah, so it's no Friday the 13th. It's average.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cliche. You have... So Friday the 13th we can compare it to because they came out a year apart. You have the guy in the beginning, you have Crazy Ralphie. He's like, you don't want to go to Camp Blood.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want to go there. This time you get the legend, the campfire story. This is the tale. This is what's going to happen if you invoke it. And of course it was invoked. But there are so many negatives to this movie. Obviously we were going to get bad character development. I think this is beyond bad. My opinion.
Even in, like, say, like a Friday the 13th or, like, a sleepaway camp or, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the characters aren't, like, developed, but at least their main characters you have a caring for, I would say.
I think Franklin in Texas Chainsaw is pretty well developed for like, a slasher. And what I would say is, you know, like, I think you hit the nail on the head. You don't know a character's name until, like, an hour in the movie, or would you even care?
And that's what we talked about just last episode. What are some of the most important things of movies? Character.
Yeah.
Characters you actually want to see on screen. Probably the movie's biggest flaw. Because the death scenes were good for the 80s. The gore was there for the 80s. Like, the killer... He looks cool. He's kind of Sasquatchy, but, like, he's intimidating. He's a big guy. The decision-making of the characters, just what they do, it's just...
I think this movie failed a little bit. I think they revealed the killer too quick. I think they showed him right away. The silhouette in the tree where Richie sees him, fine. But there's too many shots where people see him, and I think they should have left it more of POV and less where you see his physical appearance until later on in the film.
Well, like a Black Christmas, like you mentioned earlier.
Because right away you know exactly what he looks like. You see how disfigured he looks. If you got it later on, it would kind of build up to like, oh, I want to know what this guy looks like. Right away you're like, okay, well, this is the deal. This is it for another 50 minutes.
Another really good example of like what you're saying, that a movie that does it really well, Don't Look Now.
Oh my god, that's a great...
Yeah, because the whole movie is Donald Sutherland. Well, he thinks he's looking for his daughter who's dead, but like there's all these killings in the background, but they never reveal who it is, or they don't even give a glimpse. Kind of, you just see a red raincoat, and then at the end you see what it is, and it's like that build-up is what makes that movie so good. And that's what this movie is missing. You see him right away, so you're not even building up to him. You're just seeing shitty characters die one by one.
I'm giving it a 5 out of 10, right there in the cusp. Probably a movie I would not rewatch, but it's not bad. I just think that if I'm going to watch a slasher, I'm going to go to the Friday the 13th. I'm going to go to the Texas Chainsaws. Would I recommend to somebody? Yeah. I think this is a movie that's definitely one of the more underrated, more underappreciated, or at least under-talked about movies of the 80s.
Even Maniac, I thought, was more interesting than this one.
Yeah, I wasn't like particularly thrilled about that one either, but I think it was more interesting. I think the killer was developed a little bit better in that movie too.
I'm with you. I'm giving this movie a 5. I think it is a perfectly average 80s slasher. I didn't enjoy it that much, but it is what it is. It did what it wanted to do.
Well, you said it is what it is. It's just like what you see is what you get. Nothing more than that. It's nothing less, and it tries to be nothing more than that.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like it's trying to be this great movie. It's just trying to be an 80s slasher. And it's just not one of the better ones. I mean, I'm giving it a 5. It very easily could have been a 4. But I don't think it's inherently bad. Like, when I think of my scale of movies, like, I gave Unfriended a 2. This movie is much better than Unfriended, in my opinion.
It is.
So, I mean...
maybe it's unfair to compare it to Friday the 13th, which is like like I said, the pinnacle.
It's
the pinnacle movie of summer camp fun. But, like I said, that movie is special because it has such a good setup, and the relationship between mother and son and that bond just really drives the story. There's a lot of intrigue there. This movie, you kind of just, you get it right away, and you're like, okay, I have to endure this. It's not bad, the kills are fun, but the character relationships and the development, you're just like, I just want to see some good kills, because that's what you're going to get.
This movie is getting its 5 off of kills, and the fact that Madman Mars is at least a cool-looking villain. Like, it wasn't a letdown seeing him. It's just, like you said, you saw him too early.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really it for me. Like, I don't have much more to say about this movie.
No, just picture, like, a hulking, massive man that's just been electrified by a gajillion volts of electricity.
That's one way to put it. So that was our first review of our summer camp month. Our start of summer camp summer, because we're going to do this for 4 more weeks.
We're going to do this through the month of July, and we are very, very excited, and please give us recommendations. Like you mentioned, we are on Twitter at 2guys1necro. We'd love to hear what you have to say about our review for this movie. Give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
Yep. We're also on Facebook at 2guys1necronomicon. You could like our page there, post what you want us to review, just give us some ideas, and we'll definitely consider doing them. We do have our movie for next week, I believe. We're not going to reveal which one. Me and Brian discussed this, and we decided for summer camp month, we're going to just leave it that you know you're getting a summer camp movie, but not give the specific one.
Hints will be dropped on our social media accounts.
Yes. I got some good ones for this one. They might be too spoilery, though, so I'm probably going to ask your approval first.
Give it.
All right. We are 2 Guys, 1 Necronomicon, and we will see you next week at another campfire.
This is it for 2 Guys, 1 Necronomicon. Thanks for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to visit our Twitter page, our Facebook page. Follow us, give us a like. We'd love to hear from you and talk horror movies.